Service organizations across the country face an uncertain future, and Sertoma is no exception. However, with foresight planning and strong leadership, your club can build a foundation for a stronger tomorrow. This is something we all know, but what many clubs don't know how to do is how to find future club leaders. In today's session, we'll take a look at some of the most common challenges our clubs are facing when it comes to leadership recruitment, as well as the process behind actually finding your future leaders. We'll also examine important leadership traits and talk about the importance of leadership retention. This is Finding Future Club Leaders. If you've been around Sertoma, or really any volunteer organization, for very long, you'll know that you often hear the same reasons and excuses when trying to find new leaders to help with your club. In fact, it's estimated 41% of all nonprofits struggle with recruiting quality board leaders, according to nonprofit consulting and technology firm Wild Apricot. One of the most common challenges our clubs face is the time commitment. The responsibility of leading your club is an important one, and the time that it takes often proves too much for many people. So how can we overcome this? One way is to find micro-volunteering opportunities, such as giving an hour to sell tickets to an upcoming fundraiser or acting as a greeting at your next club meeting. Getting people involved in small ways can foster an environment that encourages them to grow their engagement. It's a good idea to invite them to a club board meeting so that they can see things as they typically work. Standing committees are also a perfect gateway volunteer leadership role. We also hear that it's too much work for your current leaders to put time into recruiting new ones. We understand that your time is valuable, and that's exactly why we encourage you to spend time on this. Otherwise, you'll find yourself without volunteers to replace you, thus extending your service or leaving your club in peril. If you're a bigger club, one possible solution may be to form a task force that can look at leadership recruitment. It doesn't have to be made up of board members either. In fact, your past presidents can be a great group to utilize here. Just make sure to have a member of the board to serve as a liaison to keep communication strong between the two. Finally, and perhaps the biggest challenge, is the old adage, no one will volunteer. I would recommend that you consider leadership recruitment as part of your membership strategy. If your club is to survive, it needs to have a future. You should be seeking out members who want to see your club be successful today and in the future. Look for these types of leaders when you recruit and orient new members. Building a culture of inclusion will go a long way into ensuring people want to keep your club alive for many years to come. There are two common ways most clubs are going to manage the recruitment process. For smaller clubs, it is more likely that the board or executive committee will be charged with these efforts. It's important for these individuals to remember that they cannot be biased in their work. They must keep the good of the organization at the forefront of their mind and keep an eye on the overall future of the club. For larger clubs, it can be helpful to form a nominating or board development task force. As I noted earlier, past presidents make a great resource for this committee, but don't be afraid to mix it up and seek out an array of perspectives. What makes Sertoma so great is that we come from and serve all walks of life. Two things you need to keep in mind. First, make sure that your recruitment team knows the requirements it takes to serve on your board in terms of your club's bylaws and policies. Second, you want to make sure that you have an appointed chair of the group responsible for reporting back to the board. Everyone should be on the same page. The recruitment process can vary greatly from organization to organization, club to club. What we'll present here is just one general approach that you can take. Don't be afraid to experiment and find out what works best for your club. No one knows your needs and work better than your members, so it must be something that works for your situation. Our approach here today focuses a lot on determination. After all, board recruitment is far from easy and takes a lot of time, tenacity, and patience. In this process, we'll ask you to determine 4 things: your needs, your prospects, your interviewees, and finally, your candidates. Before you can even begin to find your future club officers and board members, you need to figure out what your club needs. I would encourage your board, and perhaps even your members, to spend some time answering a few questions, including, what do you want in a board member? What would your ideal candidate be like? What holes does your board have in terms of skills and traits? Do you have someone good at technology or someone knowledgeable about finance? It's all about finding a good balance. Do your demographics reflect your club, both now and in the future? Do the defined responsibilities of your board reflect how your club functions and what it needs? And finally, do your board role titles and job descriptions match what they actually do? Once you have an idea of what you're looking for, it's time to think about who you're looking for and where you can find them. There are a plethora of great places to find your next board members or future club president. The most obvious place is your current committee leaders. They already have experience in upper-level involvement in your club. The same can be said with your top volunteers. If they are that committed to helping you with your programs, events, and fundraisers, they may be primed for leadership too. Your engaged donors and sponsors can be a great way to bring a new perspective to your leadership team. Community influencers can also be beneficial in your work. Just make sure that these individuals are official members of the club so as to not violate your bylaws. Finally, think about your veterans. Longtime members have shown a proven commitment to your club. You never know when it might be time for them to finally take on a leadership position. Even if they've turned it down before, it doesn't hurt to check in periodically and ask again. Finally, if your club allows it, it can be helpful to go back to your past leaders. Just check your bylaws first. Many people find that they miss it once their service is over and may be ready to come back after some time has passed. Next up, you'll begin to talk to your prospects further. This may be a formal or informal process depending on what works best for your membership and club. Either way, it will likely contain 3 steps: selecting your qualified prospects, conducting some sort of an interview, and evaluating the results. The process should be transparent and efficient. Boardable, a board management consulting company, suggests a few different ways to run this process, such as inviting prospects to attend a board meeting, asking them to volunteer at a higher level to see how they act and lead in different situations, or interviewing them with a senior board member or past board chair. It's finally time to choose your candidates. When you've narrowed down your field significantly, make sure that you're gathering feedback in meaningful ways. You should seek opinions from current leaders, keeping their input focused on your current mission and goals. It's also a good time to take a final look and see if there's anything the group may have missed out on so far. This is especially important when you're working with a non-board task force. And don't forget, once your new leaders have been officially elected into board or office service, you need to follow up with strong orientation. This includes providing them with governance and policy information in an official board manual, giving them access to applicable accounts and information, connecting them with someone who can help guide them as a board member, and conducting a formal overview of the organization, membership, finances, and more. If you have any paid staff, you'll also want to give the chance to meet him or her. Sertoma has done a few different sessions in the past on the different roles and traits of strong leadership. You can find those in the training library in our member center at sertoma.org. However, for our purpose today, we want to share just a few of them here. Knowledge is one of the most important traits I look for in a leader. I don't just mean knowledge of the organization and its mission, though that is terribly important. I also look for someone with a knowledge of how to manage and lead others, as well as certain kinds of professional or service-related knowledge. There are also some essential personality traits and skills the best leaders possess. You want leaders to be proactive in addressing opportunities and challenges. You need board members who can be patient during times of adversity and tenacious when the chips are down. They also need to be readily available to do the work that they're charged with. If their schedule precludes them from their service, don't put them on the board. It makes things unnecessarily difficult for all of those involved. Finally, seek out leaders who are forward-thinking and ready to embrace change. Otherwise, you'll remain stuck exactly where you are. We'll end today's training with a reminder about the importance of retaining your leaders. It's critical to keep your board connected, committed, and accountable. Fundraising expert Amy Einstein shares these 4 best practices. 1. Make the work meaningful to your volunteer leaders. Their service should be interesting and utilize their unique skills and talents as much as possible. 2. Don't waste their time. Keep meetings efficient and engaging. Find ways to ensure your discussion are relevant and productive. Cultivate your board culture. Make sure that you're continuing to grow and develop your leaders' knowledge of governance, budgeting, fundraising, and more. And finally, number 4, say thank you. Board members don't serve for the pomp and circumstance, but they deserve to be recognized for their service. Finding ways to privately and publicly thank them is a good way to remind them how important they are to your organization. If you've learned anything today, we hope it's that your board is more than just a group of warm bodies there to call a meeting to order or occasionally sign a check. They're a reflection of what your club currently is and aspires to be. We hope that you'll take the ideas presented here and apply them to your club with the goal of finding individuals who share your same Sertoma passion. You can learn more about club leadership through our member center at sertoma.org. There, you'll find manuals, training videos, and other resources dedicated to aiding your officers and board members. You can also connect with other Sertoma members and volunteer leaders in our Members Corner on Facebook at the URL on the screen.